The emergency klaxons were still screaming when I first saw what was left of the human vessel. I am Kelrath, third-tier reconnaissance officer aboard the Hegemony cruiser Voidbreaker, and in my 17 cycles of service I have witnessed approximately 412 crash landings. Not one of them, and I mean absolutely not a single one, prepared me for what I was about to encounter on the moon of Saros V. The human ship, if you could even call it that anymore, had carved a burning scar across 3 kilometers of frozen methane plains. Metal fragments glittered like scattered teeth across the ice. The main fuselage had folded in on itself like paper, which was frankly generous considering it looked more like someone had put it through an industrial compressor and then set it on fire for good measure. "Scanners indicate 0 life signs," announced Vex, my scanning technician, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. The impact velocity was actually, "Do not ask. You will lose your morning nutrition." I adjusted my breather mask and checked my sidearm. Standard protocol for crash investigations. The Hegemony liked things neat, documented, and preferably without surprises. We descended toward the wreckage in our shuttle, the landing struts crunching against the crystallized atmosphere deposits. "Kelrath," Vex said, his voice carrying that particular tone that meant I was not going to like what came next. "I am detecting a heat signature. Impossible. Nothing survives that kind of impact. The G-forces alone would turn internal organs into soup. I am aware of basic physics. Thank you. I am also aware of what my instruments are telling me. Heat signature. Moving. Approximately 60 meters from the main crash site." I felt my secondary stomach clench. Great, just fantastic. Probably some automated distress beacon, or a fire that had not gotten the memo about the lack of oxygen. I grabbed my scanner and headed toward the access ramp. "Stay with the shuttle," I ordered Vex. "If something goes wrong, you leave." "Understood." "Completely understood, and completely ignored," he replied, following me down the ramp anyway. "You are not dying out here alone. The paperwork would be tremendous." The crash site was worse up close. Twisted metal support beams jutted from the ice like broken bones. The cockpit section had separated entirely and lay upended about 40 meters away, still smoking despite the frigid temperature. Human vessels always seemed so fragile to me, held together with what appeared to be optimism and spot welds. Then I saw him. The human was standing, and I need you to understand the full absurdity of that statement. Standing, upright, alive, next to a crash site that looked like an explosion in a scrapyard. He was tall, easily 2 meters, wearing a flight suit that was shredded in at least a dozen places. Blood, frozen into dark patches, covered his left arm and the side of his face. He was holding something in his right hand, and it took my brain several seconds to process what I was seeing. A sword. Not a plasma cutter, not a vibroblade, not any kind of modern implement that might make sense on a spacecraft. An actual, honest-to-the-void length of sharpened metal with a handle. "Vex," I said slowly, not taking my eyes off the human. "Are you seeing this?" I am questioning my own sensory organs, but yes. The human noticed us then. His eyes, and this is important, were the color of what humans call ice, which was ironic given our current location. He did not raise the blade in threat. He simply looked at us. Then he smiled, which on a human face is either friendly or means they are about to do something incredibly stupid. Sometimes both. "Well, hey there," the human said, his voice carrying across the frozen wasteland with unsettling clarity. "You folks with parking enforcement? Because I am pretty sure I left my ship in a no-crash zone." I stared. Vex stared. The frozen moon of Saros V presumably stared, though it lacked eyes. Your vessel just impacted at terminal velocity," I managed to say. "You should be deceased. Very deceased. Extremely, definitively deceased." The human looked back at the wreckage, then at us, then shrugged. "Yeah, that was a rough landing. Lost my stabilizers about 10 minutes before atmospheric entry. Tried to compensate with manual thrusters, but turns out when you are coming in that hot, manual control is more of a suggestion than a solution." "How are you alive?" Vex blurted out. "Honestly, no idea. Strapped in, held on, and tried real hard not to die." He hefted the sword slightly. "Also had this, my grandfather's. Figured if I was going out, I was going out holding something that mattered." There was a pause, a long, deeply confused pause. "You brought a sword," I said, "onto a spacecraft." "Technically it was already on the spacecraft. I bring it everywhere. Good luck charm." "Your good luck charm is a primitive melee weapon. Listen, friend, I just survived a crash that your scanner probably said was unsurvivable, so maybe do not knock my methods." He had a point, much as it pained me to admit it. The human started walking toward us, and every instinct I had screamed to reach for my weapon. Not because he was threatening, but because nothing about this situation made sense, and things that do not make sense tend to be dangerous. "Name is Marcus Vale," the human said, extending his non-sword hand. "Freelance cargo runner, was hauling medical supplies to the colony on Terminus 8 when I ran into some unfriendly company. Took some hits, lost my FTL drive, ended up here." He glanced around. "Where is here exactly?" "Saros 5, I replied automatically, still trying to process the fact that I was having a conversation with someone who should be a corpse. "Hegemony scanning outpost. You should be in shock, possibly dying, definitely not walking around making jokes." Marcus laughed, and it was not a polite laugh. It was the kind of laugh that suggested he had looked death in the face and decided it was not his type. "Buddy, I have been in shock since the second my shields failed, but I figure I can have my breakdown after I am somewhere warm with a drink and a medic, preferably in that order." "The nearest medical facility is 6 hours away," Vex said. "You need immediate treatment." "I need immediate extraction is what I need. That ship that shot me down, they were Corvan pirates, mean ones. They are probably tracking my debris field right now." My scales went cold. The Corvan were not known for leaving witnesses. "How many ships?" I asked. 3. Small raiders, but heavily armed. They wanted my cargo." Marcus grinned again, and there was something fierce in it. "Joke's on them. I jettisoned everything before they could board. Supply containers are probably scattered across half this sector by now." "You jettisoned medical supplies." "I jettisoned my medical supplies. Figured better in space than in pirate hands. Plus, insurance." Vex made a choking sound. "You sacrificed your cargo to spite pirates. And to survive. Spite was just a bonus." Marcus tilted his head. "Look, I appreciate the chat, but if those raiders followed my crash vector, we have maybe 20 minutes before they show up looking for salvage. And by salvage I mean my corpse, which I would prefer to keep uncorpsed." He was right. Procedure said we should return to the Voidbreaker, file a report, let Command handle it. Reality said that by the time Command made a decision, the Corvan would have turned this moon into a shooting gallery. "Get to the shuttle," I said. Marcus did not argue, which was the first smart thing he had done since not dying in a fireball. We ran, or rather, Vex and I ran while Marcus moved with the kind of controlled urgency that suggested several broken ribs he was politely ignoring. We were halfway to the shuttle when my scanner lit up, 3 contacts, descending fast. "Kelrath," Vex shouted. "I see them. Move!" The Corvan raiders dropped out of the sky like metallic predators, their hulls scarred and modified far beyond factory specs. Weapons ports opened, and I knew with absolute certainty we were not going to make it. Then Marcus did something I will remember for the rest of my life. He stopped running. He turned. He raised that ridiculous, primitive, utterly obsolete sword, and he smiled. "You have got to be joking," I gasped. "Get to the shuttle," Marcus said calmly. "Get it powered up. I will buy you time." "With what? A sword? You would be surprised what you can do with the right attitude and poor decision-making skills." The first raider opened fire, plasma bolts scorching the ice where Marcus had been standing a half-second earlier. He moved fast, faster than someone with his injuries should be able to move, and suddenly he was sprinting not away from the ships but toward them. "He has lost his mind," Vex screamed. "Agreed. Shuttle, now." We ran. Behind us I heard the scream of engines, the crack of weapons fire, and something that sounded suspiciously like a human war cry. I did not look back. I should have, because what happened next would become legend. We reached the shuttle with my respiratory system screaming for mercy. Vex slammed his manipulator against the control panel, and the engines began their startup sequence, which under normal circumstances took 45 seconds, but now felt like 45 years. "What is he doing out there?" Vex demanded, his eyes fixed on the external monitors. I pulled up the rear camera feed and immediately regretted every decision that had led me to this moment. Marcus Vale, human cargo pilot and apparent madman, was not dying. He was not hiding. He was not doing any of the sensible things a lone individual with a primitive weapon should do when facing 3 armed starships. He was running directly at the closest raider. The Corvan ship hovered about 4 meters off the ground, its pilot clearly confused about why their target was charging instead of fleeing. They fired again, plasma bolts kicking up geysers of flash-frozen methane. Marcus dodged left, then right, moving like he had done this before, like he had spent his entire life playing tag with death. Then he jumped. I am not exaggerating. The human, who by all rights should be decorating the landscape in small scattered pieces, leaped onto a jutting piece of his own destroyed ship, used it as a springboard, and launched himself at the raider's landing strut. He caught it. Impossible, Vex whispered. Marcus hauled himself up, muscles straining against the shredded flight suit, and in one fluid motion that defied both physics and common sense, he drove that sword directly into the ship's underside thruster port. The raider shrieked, metal tearing as the blade compromised something vital. Sparks erupted in a fountain of orange and white. The ship listed hard to starboard, its pilot fighting for control. Marcus did not let go. He hung there, one hand on the strut, the other wrenching the sword deeper, twisting it like he was trying to gut a fish. Then he pulled the blade free, kicked off, and dropped back to the ice, as the raider spun away trailing smoke and profanity in 3 languages. "Shuttle ready," Vex announced. "Wait, I could not believe I was saying it. We cannot leave him. He told us to leave. He is an idiot. We are not taking orders from an idiot." The second raider had decided Marcus was a problem worth solving with overwhelming firepower. Its main cannon swiveled, tracking the human as he sprinted across the ice field. I saw the charging indicator light up on my scanner. Marcus saw it too. He changed direction, heading not away from the shot but toward a chunk of debris the size of a cargo container. The cannon fired, a lance of superheated plasma that would have vaporized him instantly. Would have. Marcus slid, actually slid like he was stealing a base in that bizarre human sport, behind the debris a fraction of a second before the blast hit. The metal chunk absorbed the shot, heated to glowing red, and Marcus was already moving again. The third raider dropped lower, trying to pin him in a crossfire. These pirates were getting smart, coordinating their attack. Marcus was fast, but he was still just one human with a sword against 3 gunships. Then the human did something that made me question everything I thought I knew about tactical intelligence. He ran toward the most damaged part of his crashed ship, where the fuel cells were exposed and leaking. "No," I said. "No, he is not." "He is," Vex grabbed my shoulder. "Kelrath, he is going to." Marcus reached the fuel leak, turned, and raised his sword. The second raider, sensing an easy target, swooped in for the kill shot. Marcus brought the sword down hard against an exposed power conduit. The resulting explosion was visible from orbit, or so I was told later. The fuel cells detonated in a chain reaction that turned the entire crash site into a miniature sun. The second raider, caught in the blast radius, crumpled like paper in a furnace. Its shields overloaded instantly. The ship corkscrewed into the ice and detonated on impact. 2 down. Where was Marcus? The smoke cleared slowly in the thin atmosphere. I scanned frantically, looking for heat signatures, movement, anything. There, 50 meters from the explosion, crawling out of a shallow depression in the ice, his suit was on fire in 3 places. He was beating the flames out with his bare hands. The sword was still in his grip. The third raider hung back now, its pilot clearly reconsidering life choices. A human had just destroyed 2 gunships with a blade and strategic use of explosives. That kind of information changes battlefield calculus. "Kelrath," Vex said quietly. "We need to help him." He was right. I grabbed the shuttle controls and fired the thrusters, bringing us up and around. The third raider spotted us immediately and had to make a choice. One damaged human or a Hegemony shuttle with actual weapons. The pirate chose wrong. They went for Marcus, probably figuring he was the easier kill. I armed our forward cannon and sent a targeting lock warning. The raider pilots saw it too late, tried to evade, but their ship was designed for hit and run, not dogfighting. My shot took them clean through the port engine. They spun out, fighting for altitude, and managed to limp away into the upper atmosphere trailing debris and plasma. I brought the shuttle down hard next to Marcus. The access ramp dropped. The human stood there, sword planted point down in the ice, leaning on it like a cane. His face was covered in blood, ash and what looked like coolant fluid. His flight suit hung in tatters. At least 3 bones appeared to be broken. He was grinning. "You came back," he said. "You destroyed 2 ships with a sword," I replied, still not quite believing it. 2.5. The third one is not going to make it far. Marcus pulled the blade from the ice with a grunt. Also, technically I destroyed them with their own stupidity and some creative use of volatile materials. The sword was mostly for moral support. Vex appeared at my side. Medical scanner already out. You need immediate treatment. You are bleeding internally in at least 4 places. 5, Marcus corrected. I can feel the 5th one. Shall we discuss my medical problems somewhere that is not an active combat zone? He had a point. Again, I was starting to hate that. We got Marcus into the shuttle, which was a process that involved a lot of human swearing and creative descriptions of pain. Vex worked on him with the medical kit, while I piloted us back to the Voidbreaker. Explain the sword, I said once we were safely in atmosphere and climbing. Seriously, why do you carry a pre-industrial weapon on a spacecraft? Marcus winced as Vex sealed a particularly nasty gash on his arm. My grandfather was military, special operations. He carried that blade through 6 campaigns and never lost a fight. When he retired, he gave it to me. Said it was a reminder. Of what? That sometimes the old ways work just fine. Marcus looked at the sword, now resting across his lap. Technology fails, guns jam, ships crash. But a good blade? A good blade is simple. You know exactly what it will do. No surprises. You used it to destroy a thruster assembly, Vex pointed out. Like I said, no surprises. I knew if I hit the right spot it would go through. Physics does not care if your weapon is a plasma cutter or sharpened steel. He paused. Also, it belonged to someone I loved. Sometimes that matters more than tactical efficiency. We docked with the Voidbreaker 20 minutes later. The medical team was waiting, summoned by Vex during the flight. They took one look at Marcus and immediately began arguing about which injuries to treat first. Commander Kelrath, Captain Thrain said as I disembarked. She was Valorian, tall and covered in blue-grey scales that caught the light like metal. Your report? Human survivor from the crash site. Corvan pirates engaged. 2 destroyed, 1 damaged and retreated. I hesitated. The human did most of the work. Her crest rose in disbelief. The human who crashed? Yes. The one who should be deceased? That is the one, yes. How? I looked back at the medical bay, where Marcus was refusing sedation while 3 doctors tried to set his ribs. He was still holding that ridiculous sword. Captain, I genuinely have no idea. The report I filed was rejected twice for being unbelievable. Command eventually sent an investigator who reviewed the shuttle logs, the scanner data, and the wreckage analysis. They concluded that yes, a single human had survived a catastrophic crash, engaged 3 Corvan raiders with minimal support, and emerged victorious while armed primarily with determination and a family heirloom. The investigator requested a psychological evaluation. For me, not Marcus. Marcus recovered in our medical bay over the next week. Turns out humans are ridiculously resilient when properly motivated. The doctors said he should have died 6 different ways. He told them he was too busy to die and could they please stop fussing. On the 7th day he was cleared for transport. I escorted him to the shuttle bay where a civilian transport was waiting to take him to the nearest human colony. So, Marcus said, the sword once again strapped to his back. Thanks for not leaving me to die. Thanks for being too stubborn to die in the first place, I replied. He laughed. Fair trade. He paused at the shuttle ramp. Hey Kelrath? That thing you said about primitive weapons being obsolete? Yes, sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Remember that. I watched the transport depart carrying Marcus Vale back to whatever passed for normal in a human life. The sword glinted once in the hangar lights, then was gone. Vex found me still standing there 10 minutes later. Thinking about the human? He asked. Thinking about what he represents, I said. We have plasma weapons, shields, advanced targeting systems. The Corvan have all that too, and a human with a piece of sharpened metal defeated them. He had help, he had opportunity, and creativity. The sword was just a tool. I turned away from the hangar. Makes you wonder what else we have overcomplicated. 3 weeks later I received a message. It was from Marcus. No text, just an attached image. It showed him in what appeared to be a bar, surrounded by other humans, holding up a drink. The sword was mounted on the wall behind him. The plaque beneath it read, "The blade that killed 2 starships and made 3 Hegemony officers question everything." I sent back a single word. Accurate. His response came immediately. Damn right. I still have that exchange saved. Someday, when someone asks me if humans are really as formidable as the stories claim, I will show them the footage from Saros 5. I will show them what one man did with a sword, some attitude, and absolutely no regard for probability. Then I will let them draw their own conclusions, because some legends do not need embellishment. Sometimes a human with a blade really is enough.